जी, तो आज हम बात करने वाले हैं दो पोएटिक जाइंट्स के बारे में एंड बोथ ऑफ देम आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। सो अगर कोई भी एग्ज़ाम आपका लिटरेचर के रिलेटेड हो, सो इट इज़ नॉट पॉसिबल कि इन दो राइटर्स के बगैर वो टेस्ट कंप्लीट टेस्ट कंसिडर किया जाए। ठीक है, सो द फर्स्ट वन इज़ जॉन डन, द सेकेंड वन इज़ जॉन ड्राइडन। So both of them are from different eras, but they are associated mostly with poetry. So my name is Akif Nawaz. Now let's start talking about both of them one by one. One is from Jacobean period, the other one is from Restoration. So let's find out what do we have for John Donne and the next one is for John Dryden. So we'll start from the first one, that is John Donne. So John Donne is from the Jacobean era. Now Donne was a key figure of the metaphysical poetry movement, writing during the late 16th and early 17th century. So late 16th and early 17th century he was associated with it, and he is the prominent figure of metaphysical poetry. Now you might be wondering, what do we mean by metaphysical poetry? So I'll be explaining it in a while. Okay, so hold your horses for a minute. The next thing is he lived during the Elizabethan and early Jacobean periods. He entered, so this is like the overall introduction about his life, his early education, that he was there in Oxford and at the same time in Cambridge University, but he didn't get the degree from both of the institutions just because of the Catholicism. And why is that so? Which barred him from taking the oath of supremacy required for a degree. So अगर आपको इन दोनों यूनिवर्सिटी से उस टाइम पे डिग्री चाहिए थी तो आपने क्या करना था, आपने ओथ ऑफ सुप्रीमेसी पर हाथ रखना था, बट ही वॉज अ कैथलिक, सो दैट्स वाई इट बेयर्ड हिम टू गेट अ डिग्री फ्रॉम बोथ दीज prestigious institutions. Now let's talk about some of the terminologies that are associated with this prominent writer. So the first one is metaphysical poetry. Metaphysical poetry basically is when complex and philosophical ideas are conveyed through elaborate metaphors and similes. Means के कोई philosophical ideas जो कि complex ideas हो, वो अगर हम convey करें through the use of metaphors and similes, so उसको हम कहते हैं कि this is a metaphysical poetry. Okay, the next thing is that of conceit. Now conceit is part of metaphysical poetry. So one of the hallmarks of Donne's poetry in his use of conceits. Conceits are also known as extended metaphors that draw surprising and unusual comparison between two seemingly unrelated things. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि हम दो चीज़ों को कंपेयर करते हैं, बट द कंपैरिजन ऑफ टू थिंग्स इज कॉल्ड मेटाफर, बट इट इज़ एक्सटेंडेड मेटाफर. लेकिन जब हम दो अनयूजुअल चीज़ों को कंपेयर करते हैं आपस में जो कि अनरिलेटेड चीज़ें हो, तो उस तरह के कंपैरिजन को हम कहते हैं कि इट्स अ कंसीट. And the next thing is he was associated with religious poetry, does letter poetry, especially his holy sonnets. So that was about the terminologies that we should know in order to understand John Donne properly. Now let's talk about his early poetry. Early poetry was about love and satirical poems. Let's find out. The first one is The Flea, a witty poem where Donne uses the image of a flea biting two lovers as a metaphors for physical intimacy. So यहाँ पर भी उन्होंने conceit का जो element है वो use किया हुआ है. Conceit is a figure of speech. Now the next one is The Good Morrow. John Donne's most famous love poems, contrasting his past immature experiences with the profound connection he now feels for his lover. So this is again a romantic poetry of his. Now, the sun rising. In this poem, the speaker addresses the sun, chastising it for interrupting the lover's private word, right? So it's very interesting. If you guys are into romance, go have a look at it, right? The next one is the Holy Sonnets, his religious poetry. We need to know because he is known because of his Holy Sonnets, right? Now, the two of these sonnets are very prominent. The first one is Holy Sonnet 10, that is, Death Be Not Proud. Now one of Donne's most famous religious poems, it personifies death and defies it, right? The next one is the Holy Sonnet. The Holy Sonnet number 14. Better my heart, three-personed God. Now in this sonnet, Donne uses violent imagery to describe his desire for God to take control of his soul. So these are the two prominent holy sonnets that we need to know about John Donne. Now, let's move on to the next one, that is about his elegies and epigrams, right? Now, Donne also wrote elegies and epigrams, which often contain erotic and satirical themes. So this is something important, like erotic and satires. So we need to know both of them as well. Like this is the like another elegy. I don't know how to pronounce this name, but you need to keep this in mind. To his mistress going to bed, one of Donne's most controversial poems. This elegy celebrates physical love and vivid erotic imagery. So, again, this is one of his elegy. Now, sermons and prose, devotion upon emergent occasions, written in 1624. This is a prose work, right? This prose work is best known for containing the famous line, "No man is an island, and for whom the bell tolls." So these are the two famous lines taken from the devotion upon emergent occasions, written in 1624. So that's all about John Donne. Now let's move on forward to know more about John Dryden, which is again very important, and both of them are somehow related to each other because they are following each other's eras, right? Now the next one is John Dryden. John Dryden is very prominent when it comes to restoration. So restoration period starts from 1660 till 1700. Now let's find out what do John Dryden has for us. Now, the restoration of Charles II to the English throne in 1660 had a significant impact on Dryden's career. He became the dominant literary figure of this period, often referred as the Restoration Age. His early career coincided with the turbulent period of the English Civil War, the Commonwealth under Oliver Cromwell, and Oliver Cromwell was highly supported by John Milton, and he wrote a lot of poems against monarchy, right? And the eventual restoration of the monarchy in 1660. His first major poem, Heroic Stanzas, written in 1659, was written in the honor of Oliver Cromwell after his death. So he also wrote this heroic stanza for Oliver Cromwell as well, right? Now let's move on to talk about his poetry. So Annus Mirabilis, written in 1660, a historical reflection of the era of miracles, 1666, which included the Great Fire of London and England's naval victory against the Dutch. So Annus Mirabilis is very prominent because he's talking about like the year of miracles. So that is another important point for you to note down. So the year of miracle is 1666 because of these two important incidents, right? The fire of London and England's naval victories against the Dutch. The next one is Meg Flecknoe, written in 1682, a satirical poem that takes the playwright Thomas Shadwell. So this is again, we need to know something about him. Now that is the most famous one, Absalom and Achitophel, written in 1681, which is one of his famous works. This political allegory is based on the biblical story of Absalom's rebellion against his father, King David, a commentary on the political crisis of the Exclusion Bill and the attempt to prevent the Catholic James, Duke of York, from succeeding to the throne. Now this Absalom and Achitophel is very important. The first thing is it's a political allegory, and any writer who is talking about politics, that becomes very famous. Now look, let's take the example of Faiz Ahmad Faiz, right? He is more into like against the political system, not the political system, but the prevalent system of Pakistan, right? And now let's move on forward to talk about his plays. Okay, now All for Love, written in 1677, a reworking of Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, focuses on the personal and emotional struggles of the characters. It is written in blank verse and is considered one of his best dramatic works. So All for Love is important just because that is a reworking of Antony and Cleopatra, right? The next one is The Indian Emperor. Now the name is quite interesting. I don't know what do we have in here. So it is a heroic drama that depicts the conquest of Mexico, reflecting the popular taste of exotic settings and larger than life characters in restoration drama. So The Indian Emperor. So the name sounds like a very exotic kind of name. So that's why it is somehow associated with the exotic setting and things that are larger than life, means extraordinary characters, right? Now, Marriage a la Mode. So that is written in 1673, a comedy of manners that reflects the social dynamics and intrigues of the Restoration Court. It showcases Dryden's ability to write in different dramatic genres. So that is again we need to keep in mind as well, right? Now the next thing is his famous work of criticism is an essay of dramatic poesy. So he's also worked a lot when it comes to literary criticism. So his work, an essay on dramatic poesy written in 1668, in which he defends English drama against the strict rules of classical French ड्रामा. सो इसमें उन्होंने किस चीज़ को क्रिटिसाइज किया है? क्लासिकल फ्रेंच ड्रामा के पैटर्न को जो लोग फॉलो करते थे. सो ही डिफेंडेड इंग्लिश ड्रामा while attacked the classical French drama. Now, Virgil's Aeneid, written in 1697, Dryden's translation of Virgil's epic is considered one of the finest in English. So this was translated in English language back in 1697. He also translated works of Horace, Ovid, and Homer, as well as Chaucer's contemporary tales into modern English. So these are the things that we need to know about Donne and John Dryden. So every important aspects from the terminologies that are associated with him, with both of them, along with the plays, the poetry, the prose, things related to criticism, everything, every aspect of their work has been discussed properly. So that's all from my side. We'll see the next one. Stay tuned. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.